Gary Hilton was known as the Beast of Blood Mountain. He's one of my favorite psychopaths of all time. I think you're going to really like him as well. Greg wants to tell us about the videos we're going to watch.
Yeah, this video is David Scott, who's become a friend of the channel. We were getting to know David pretty well, and he's a great interviewer. And there's a reason he has all those Emmys and all those things. And he's going to come and talk to us sometime about these interviews. But this was him interviewing this American serial killer responsible for 4 known murders between 2007 and 2008 that he committed in 3 states. He's, I believe, on death row, or he has been convicted of killing a woman in Jacksonville, Florida, and is in Florida prison.
Here you are on death row.
Yes.
Talking for the first time publicly about your crimes.
That's right.
We're here today, sir, to try and understand the mindset and motivations behind your actions in these cases. You're 78 years old now, right?
Yes.
In poor health, you say?
Yes, very poor health. That's one reason I'm doing this, because I'm going to die soon. I have a congestive heart failure.
Tell me in your own words, why are you breaking your silence?
Well, you hit it right on the head. And I also, an answer is, I don't know. All I can say is, it's time. After 17 years, after ignoring innumerable requests from every kind of person in the world, it's time. That's the way I feel. It's time, after 17 years, to break my silence.
All right, Greg, what do you got?
So if there's any truth to phrenology where you test people's lumps on their head and how they look, I guess I'm going to go into the mountains here shortly and do something, because this guy could pass for my uncle. Of course, shaved head and all big ears go a long way. So it tells you that when you see somebody who tells you that a look it means something about behavior, you should write that off. Somebody would be pissed about that. Don't care. This should be clear for you. The other thing is they're going to say he has fight or flight because he's breathing so heavily, but he has congestive heart failure, number one, and he's excited. This is sick. This is a guy who's excited to get his moment in front of a camera. It could be his baseline that he's breathing and he's almost stepping on himself, but I don't think so. I think he probably is stepping on himself because he gets the opportunity to talk about his crimes. And we see this happen with people who live in cloistered environments, and what's normal for them is something very abnormal. We're watching it right now today with shooters all around America. The guy who shot up ICE, the guy who killed and I'm not going to use their names because we should burn their birth certificates for doing this, but the guy who shot the United Healthcare CEO, the guy who shot Charlie Kirk. They get in this weird confinement thinking, and what's normal is no longer normal for them. What their normal is becomes more and more and more deviant and changed. We know that when you put people in isolation, when you put people in solitary confinement, that they roll over their own ideas and they reinforce their own ideas. So people doing this, where they're self-imposed by living in the woods in isolation, like apparently he did some, or being isolated because you're so weird. You have no benchmark for normal, and so you've got this new way of being. So we see it happen all the time, and it's gotten a lot easier with this, because you can get into a really weird little group and bind into their beliefs and get more and more and more and more out there. What happens with these guys, they eventually get to the point where they see it as some kind of self-actualization. The fact that they are so extreme in that viewpoint, like shooting the United Healthcare guy, like shooting Charlie Kirk, like any of these people who've been killed, including like the Minnesota congresswoman, all those people, this is a person who's gotten in their head somehow that this is normal, acceptable, and that they will be admired for it. If you really don't believe this is true, go look at his mugshot, and we could probably flash that up, and you'll see in that mugshot, he's trying to look intimidating, not contrite, not anything else. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, so I really like this in terms of the interviewer. And just remind us, Greg, the name of the interviewer?
David Scott.
David Scott. Yep. Yeah, lovely. Lovely work, because for us as the audience and for his subject here, he frames it very, very clearly. We want to understand the mindset and the motivations. So I heard it, the person being interviewed heard it, the interviewer said it. This is what we're here for, the mindset and the motivations. And so he asks this question, why are you doing this? Well, the first answer is, I'm going to die soon. Okay. The next answer that comes, well, I don't know. Okay, well, hang on. Is it that you're going to die soon, or you don't know? Like, or it can't be both because you did know before. And now you're saying you don't know. And now 3 times we get the answer. It's time. It's time. It's time. Well, time is not a motivation or a mindset. It's a dimension in which we exist. Okay. So he's moved from a very self-interested, I'm going to die soon, to an expanse under which he's no longer willing to tell us anything about any self-awareness. So what I'm pointing at here is, under this framework of we want to understand your mindset and your motivations, what he's giving us at the end is, I'm not going to tell you anything about myself because I probably don't really understand myself at this point, other than being self-obsessed and I'm going to die soon. So look, there are personality types that fit in with that kind of viewpoint. I can hint along as we go as to, you know, where that might land, but it's going to be easy for you as a panelist to see where that's landing going along the way. But I like how the interviewer here has immediately put a decent frame up for us that we can assess what he's saying along with that frame that he's put forward. Nicely done. Chase, what do you got on this one?
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think there's something here we should pay attention to that I think is going to benefit people watching this video. He socialized the uncertainty. He socialized it. So he's well known for lacking empathy. But when he says he's not sure why now is a good time, you see this laughter, but it's not real laughter. It's social laughter. We see like a little connection laugh. This is how we get other people comfortable with us and how we get people comfortable with ideas that we might be pitching somebody. So he's looking to use this laughter to connect with the interviewer here. And his jaw is hanging low, kind of between these sentences. I think if he's honest about congestive heart failure, this is called oxygen hunger. It's another part of this is called cachexia, and it's like a metabolic Miley Cyrus wrecking ball, kind of tied to this congestive heart failure thing. And it's a crazy thing that happened. His heart's failing, so his brain gets flooded with all these inflammatory things in our brain called cytokines. But they scream, burn muscle and fat. It starts eating you alive, and it forces our diaphragm to work harder for air. It weakens the diaphragm. So there's a ton of stuff going on. I think a lot of people say he's breathing fast. We'll look at his breath rate. His breath rate is quick. Congestive heart failure manufactures this exact breathing that we're seeing right here.
Hey panelists, quick intro. I want you to meet Jess, our sponsorship specialist. Hey Jess.
Hi Mark.
Jess, thanks for letting me do this. I just Googled your full name. Now, is your address Los Angeles?
Yes.
And your phone number 214-428.
Where are you finding all this information?
Yeah, see, that's the scary part. Your personal info, address, phone, email is out there for anyone to find. All I did was just Google search, and it's not a hack. It's data brokers, companies that collect and sell your information to marketeers, scammers, even identity thieves. And yes, it's totally legal and totally creepy. They're supposed to remove your info if you ask, but they bury that in legalese and red tape, hoping you just give up. Or you can do what we do, which is use Aura, today's sponsor. Aura scans the web for data brokers, sharing your info, and automatically sends opt-out requests on your behalf. Just give it a few days and your personal data starts vanishing from those sketchy sites. But Aura doesn't stop there. It monitors the dark web 24/7 and alerts you fast if your info shows up. It'll warn you if someone tries to open a bank account or credit line in your name. And if something does go wrong, you're covered with up to $5 million in identity theft insurance and a US-based fraud team ready to step in. Plus, Aura includes a world-class VPN so you can browse and shop safely from anywhere. It's privacy, protection, and peace of mind all in one. So go to aura.com/TBP and get 14 days free. That's enough time for Aura to start scrubbing your personal info from the internet. Thanks again, Jess. And now back to the show.
So anyway, it's the same brain that's kind of fueling the murders is the same thing that's kind of driving out this oxygen thing here. But when this guy was about 10 years old, one of those fold-up beds, Murphy bed, collapsed on him and essentially scalped him completely. And I've read this recently. It damaged his frontal lobe. And there's a lot of cases that you read about. If you ever study neuroscience, like this guy named Phineas Gage, the most famous, he had a railroad spike go into his head. When this guy here, Gary, was 13, he shot his stepfather in a rage, shot him with what I believe is, I think, a 12 gauge, but he never faced any charges. So he was kind of thrown into this foster care system. And there were a lot of allegations that he suffered from a bunch of abuse and all this stuff. But this is a great example of what a lot of people call some nature versus nurture. In my estimation, there's no such thing as nature versus nurture. I think it's nature and nurture in every case, and I don't think there's an exception to that. I think it's always a combo. So interesting here that we're seeing him like be non-empathetic and then socialize and try to build rapport with the interviewer. Scott, what do you got?
Hey, let's talk about the nature versus nurture thing, because you have somebody like Ted Bundy, who I don't think was abused. I don't think one of his parents were alcoholics. I don't think he had those problems that a psychopath has usually growing up, or what was termed as a sociopath, which would be on the nurture side. So I think that would be an example of somebody who goes would be against that. In other words, because and then you have the one who's got full-on problems with how the brain connects, two different things. So I think I see what you're saying in there, but at the same time, I'm going to have to go with I think there is a difference, because the sociopath, what people call the sociopath, it's still antisocial disorder. I
agree. I'm just saying I don't think there's a situation where none of one of them exist.
Well, it doesn't mean somebody beat him or tortured him either. I mean, there could be some other stimulus, Scott, I think is what you're saying. People paint themselves into a corner and get some really screwed up behaviors, but we do know there's brain function issue with some of these guys like you're talking about.
And they've even shown that pregnant women, if they get sick during the last trimester, that like a severe illness before giving birth, and there's a genetic predisposition that it increases the chances of psychopathy. Like a lot of weird, small, seemingly small things.
Yeah.
Sorry, Scott.
No. You never know. All right, for a psychopath, which is what we're dealing with, and I know because I've done an entire video on this guy over on my channel, and he's one of my favorites. This is literally Nirvana for him. You put them on TV and you get one of these high-end interviewers like David Scott, and I want to call him David because Greg and I met him and I feel like I know him. So when you talk to David, when he's asking you questions, then you're there, you've arrived. And when he's being interviewed in his interrogation, when they're talking to him, he's telling them how he thinks he's a really big deal in the true crime world because people sell things that he used to own and that kind of thing. So his ego is like jacked in this. He was in. If you get a chance to look up the interrogation, look that up. Yep. Fascinating, and how these guys that are interrogating work him. Oh, it's wonderful. So if you ever get a chance to see that, do it. But this is the perfect spot for him to be in. He's talking about himself and what he thinks, and all the questions are about him and what he thinks about things and how he did stuff. Oh, it's perfect for that. So most of the time you see a situation like this, you say, well, you can't really tell, and you've got to do these tests and all this stuff. I don't think there's any question whatsoever. I would bet everything that's what this guy is. And I'm sure there have been tests run on. He's still alive. So I'm sure there have been at least the tests that run right up next to the fMRIs if they haven't done those as well. So he starts setting this whole thing up to tell his story. He's had a lot of time to sit around and think about himself and his story and why he's a star in the true crime world and the story he's going to tell to make him even more famous, to solidify all that for him. That's why he sets it up with, here's why here's why I'm telling you, because I think, I'm dying. So that hits us on the, oh man, that's terrible. He's dying. I don't think anybody feels bad that this guy's dying at all. And so that he's trying to pull on the heartstrings by getting you to feel sorry for him because he's dying from heart failure. But he's thought about this a long time. So he's got his story set up and ready to go. And as we go through this, you'll notice a couple of times where when he does talk about those things, he sets himself up as the hero in these stories. So I'll leave it right there because this can go on for, I could talk about this forever. What are you going to say, Greg?
I felt something when you said I'm dying. I thought, do you want some help?
Yeah. The creepy thing about this is he's like that, oh shucks, I just killed these people and here's how I did it. It's that thing is the problem is the biggest deal for me, or one of the biggest deals, because he treats it like he acts like this is nothing. He just, it's just what I do. And we're going to find out when he started and all that in a few minutes.
Yeah, there's some really good stuff coming up in these things.
Here you are on death row.
Yes.
Talking for the first time publicly about your crimes.
That's right.
We're here today, sir, to try and understand the mindset and motivations behind your actions in these cases. You're 78 years old now, right?
Yes.
In poor health, you say?
Yes, very poor health. That's one reason I'm doing this, because I'm going to die soon. I have a congestive heart failure.
Tell me in your own words, why are you breaking your silence?
Well, you hit it right on the head. And I also, an answer is, I don't know. All I can say is, it's time. After 17 years, after ignoring innumerable requests from every kind of person in the world, it's time. That's the way I feel. It's time, after 17 years, to break my silence.
In our correspondence, you said, I think I'm prepared to give you an interview that's a lollapalooza. It'll knock your socks off.
Yes.
I will answer any question about any subject truthfully and completely.
Yes.
Can I count on you for that?
You sure can.
You said, be prepared to meet a whole different breed of cat. What breed exactly?
Well, I'm just like no one else, really,
Serial killer?
They're a dime a dozen.
Psychopath?
No.
Sociopath?
I have part of that in me.
All right, Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, so I'm really obsessed with this guy in exactly what he's saying. Look, we're the behavior panel, you know us, and therefore we're not just going to be about nonverbal communication, body language, which is a great place to be, by the way, but also about, what else around that, not only other paralanguage, but language, what they're saying, okay? Whole different breed of cat. Whole different breed of cat is the quote that's put to him, and he doesn't seem to disagree with that quote. Whole different breed of cat. It's rare that you ever see a whole different breed of cat. And we're not talking about cats, we're talking about human beings. I can't remember the last time I saw a very, very different human. I've seen a lot of people. I haven't seen all, 8 billion plus human beings on the planet. But I reckon my chances of seeing one who that is, obviously all of us are unique, okay? But he's wildly unique. I mean, category of one unique. And I've met some of the people who people say, this one's a category of one. There is nobody else like, and I'm like, yeah, there was somebody last week and they were pretty similar. I mean, but this is a whole different breed of cat. Well, I'm just like no one else, really, Well, a better answer would be, well, I'm like no one else. But I'm just like no one else, really. He's not entirely sure of his uniqueness, I would say. The interviewer says, serial killer, they're a dime a dozen. He's something absolutely way more unique than a serial killer. Psychopath, there's a pause there. And I think he's trying to now remember his story at this point. And there's a massive deviation in his tone there. No, he goes. Well, hang on, you're protesting a little bit too much around that one. I would say we could come back to that idea of psychopath. There's something interesting around that. Sociopath, I have a part of that in me. Okay, so he's wanting to hint that he's totally unique. He's more like a sociopath. He's nothing of a psychopath. And serial killers, you get one of those anytime. This is what we would call overinflated sense of self, I would say. Overinflated, utter uniqueness. And Scott, I can imagine that you'll be able to talk about that overinflated sense throughout this, but it does tend to come up in certain personality disorders, which would be linked very highly to the idea of psychopathy. So look, that's what I've got on that one. Scott, what do you got on this? What do you got on
Remember
this?
when you were talking about the paralanguage and all that stuff?
Yeah.
Which reminded me of, and I forgot to ask you, so I'm asking now. What about our Spanish channel?
Oh yeah.
Is that up yet?
Yeah. It's up.
Okay.
If you listen, panelists out there, if you speak Spanish or like to listen to Spanish, or especially somebody who Spanish might be their first language, or they love to listen to stuff in Spanish, we have the behavior panel Español up, the Spanish version. It is truly amazing. Okay, we've got our shows. We're working on them slowly and gently, and we've got an AI which is doing an incredible job of taking our voices and doing the episode with us speaking Spanish. Now, for me, I don't speak any other language. I know we have people on the panel who speak way more languages than just one. I'm an idiot in that sense. You're not an idiot if you just speak one language. I personally think I'm a bit of an idiot that I just speak one language. But Chase, I know you have. So anyway, get yourself over to the behavior panel Español. I'll put the link in there, or just put it in Google or put it in YouTube. Go and take a look. But most importantly, tell your family and friends about it. Chase, you speak more than a bit of Spanish. Could you introduce the behavior panel Español in Spanish for me?
Sí, nosotros tenemos un nuevo canal aquí en YouTube, solamente en español. Mira aquí, español, behavior panel en español aquí.
Now, if you can imagine me and Greg and Mark talking like that too.
Yeah.
It is hilarious because Mark sends the thing, says, here's what it'll look like.
Yeah.
It is hilarious to see us sit there and go, Estados Unidos, whatever we're saying in Spanish.
But it's exactly, Chase, it's exactly like it's your voice. It's exactly like that.
Crazy.
It's just
beautiful.
off the charts. The guy who's been doing it is just, getting the AI to do it. It's just phenomenal.
I can't wait for the Arabic version, but I can't wait to see me speak Chinese. That will be my favorite.
For sure.
An apology for my vocabulary. Yo aprendí español en una escuela militar. If you understand that, then you got it.
Yep.
Amazing. Scott, sorry for that interruption, but
okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's hilarious. If you get a chance, go see it, because I can't. As soon as we finish here, I want to go watch one of those because it's so funny looking. All right, so here's where, like you were saying, Mark, he tries to differentiate himself from everybody else because, again, in this situation, he's in Nirvana. That ego is just jacked in there. He's all about himself. He's all into it. And the thing about David Scott is when he talks to you, that expression never really changes. So you could be saying something, which he does, just way out there and shocking, and his expressions do not change. So, but it's this pleasant thing where you just want to keep telling him stuff. And another thing you'll notice about the interview too, notice how much, and we always complain about this, notice how much he doesn't talk. He'll say something and just zip it and sit there and look at him and do this. And there's this really uncomfortable, not for us, but for Gary Hilton, time that goes by. And then finally he starts talking again. Unbelievable. And so he does that in a few minutes, and I'll point it out, and he gets something really interesting out of that. But every psychopath is a narcissist, but not every narcissist is a psychopath. In this case, you're dealing with the high-end clinical narcissist, which is the psychopath, which is a psychopath. And the more he talks about himself, the more he focuses on himself, and the more you'll be able to get out of him as you talk to him like this. Because once you get this started, and Greg, you have a thing where you talk about ego up and down, and pride up and pride down, and those things.
Yep.
You can use that to get more information out of them as well. When you start,
and he does.
Yeah, he sure does. So, and when it comes to that, Greg, you point out and explain it because you can explain it better than I do.
It's in my notes. Yeah.
Okay, but this whole thing where he's like, "Oh shucks, I'm just like nobody else." The one thing I thought was interesting there, though, Mark pointed out as well, the confidence he lacks there, because it looks like we are seeing a single shoulder shrug and his chin goes toward that. But I think it's his hands moving and both of them going, and the other shoulder goes up just a little bit after that. I watched that a few times. So I had no reason for him to be lying about that, because he probably believes that's true. But I thought that was really interesting. But he just happens to be a brilliant serial killer. That's how he's coming on. I do all this stuff. Yeah, I killed these people. It's brilliant. I'm different than all those other people, because I'm so different that I'm not a sociopath. I have a little bit in me. I'm definitely not a psychopath. I'm just good at this. That is just mind-boggling how his ego is so huge at this point. Chase, what do you got?
Yeah, it's like he's trying to blue ocean strategy all of his crimes.
Exactly.
He has this, Mark, you mentioned this strong reaction to the word psychopath. I don't know what to think of that. Scott, you've spent some time looking at this guy. What do you think? I'm just genuinely curious. What do you think he would just be like, almost repulsed by the term?
A psychopath?
Yeah.
No, he just knows that's bad. He knows that's because he took a minute to get to it. When he got to it, he knows that us normals see that and go, that's bad. You don't want to be called a psychopath, even though he is one. He just wants to be good at killing people. That's his thing.
Okay.
Because being a psychopath, that's a lot comes with that. That's not true. The scary part. Some of them are just doofuses. Like this guy's a doofus. Some people think they're brilliant and all that, but in this case, he's not. So I think the part that turns him off about it is the part that makes him look bad, because his ego is so on right now. Greg, what were you saying?
Yeah, I was going to say, do you think that he thinks that would take away from his brilliance as a killer? Oh, it's just something that happens.
That
this
could
guy
be too.
He's somebody. He does. He thinks he's somebody. He's not done else in his life. So
Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. And what's interesting is that he's trying to build rapport, and he's building rapport based on this weird language that he used in this letter, and he's kind of laughing about this whole different breed of cat or kind of cat, but he's smiling as the words are read back to him in an attempt to build rapport. But he says he's not a psychopath. If you look back in 1995, over a decade before the known murders, this guy, Gary, consulted on and helped produce a low-budget horror movie called Deadly Run. This is where a man abducts women, releases them in the woods, and then hunts them down like an animal. But he helped to scout locations in northern Georgia and suggested all this plot stuff to the producer of the movie. And then when the movie came out, there were some very weird similarities to his own killings and crimes. This guy. So his reaction to the word psychopath is interesting, Scott. Thank you for shining some light on that for everybody. But I think all of us need to feel special. All of us need to feel special in a certain way, me included, even if we don't admit it. He's probably creating distance between himself and anything that has like a mass market label on it. And psychopath might be too red ocean for him. But if you study psychology, this is called individuation, and he is very desperate to create that category of one for himself. So super interesting. Did anybody not go, Greg? You haven't gone.
I haven't gone yet. Yeah, what I like about this one is if you were to take this out of context, take him out of the jumpsuit, take him out of prison, and frame his face when that Ducheme smile with eyes widening, and it almost looks like he's not even trying to contain the joy that he gets when they talk about Lollapalooza. Take that, frame that, and look at it individually. It'd be like some old man looking around thinking he's about to hit bingo. I mean, he looks that joyful about the whole thing. And as you watch it, you pay attention to him, you're thinking, well, what does that mean? Well, context is everything. I did a TV show last week, and they put up my suggestion, put up the two shooters, put up the guy who shot UHC CEO, the guy who shot Charlie Kirk, and their booking photos. And their chins are up, their lips are compressed or pushed forward. They are showing all the signs of smugness and justification. And then they showed me a picture of a third guy that's taken out of context as he's hanging out with his friends. And I said, can't tell. He could be doing something horrible and smiling because I don't have any frame of reference. But we have expectations when a person is in this setting, how they should behave. Now, that's scary because it means that people can actually believe the person is thinking something they're thinking when they're smiling and laughing and doing all this. And he may be having all kinds of horrible thoughts. This guy's not, he didn't accidentally do any of these things he did. Guarantee there were plans, there were opportunities he took to go do it. So pay attention to what you're seeing. If you take them out of context, you'll see something different. What I do find interesting, Scott, I do see a difference in David here in one place. I see his usual, that kind of amused smile he has when he's talking to you, but then I see his eyes narrow in scrutiny. This guy can't see it because he's sitting right across the table from him and he can't. We all can sense people's feelings and know when they're getting irritated. Some people on the spectrum may not be able to, but this guy has no concept of the empathy it takes to feel what that guy is doing, or he would know right away that David's poking him pretty hard already. And I'm back to Chase, what we're talking about here. This is self-actualization for him. And I think that differentiation and that making himself unique is all part of Maslow. And he's just, of course, he's not a run-of-the-mill serial killer. He has to tell us exactly what he's done that is wrong and how he is much more brilliant than any of the rest of us. I'll guarantee you that this guy has killed a lot more people than they know about. And he's just not willing to tell them about that yet. And if there's some way it's like Bundy. Remember Bundy trying at the last minute saying, I'll tell you where there's other people you don't know about, and doing all that. This guy's a creepy piece of work. That's all I got.
I didn't know until this morning that Lollapalooza was a real word. I just thought it was a music festival.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's what, it was one of those words they got and said, we'll call it the damn Lollapalooza too.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's because it sounded cool. Or you still wouldn't have heard that. None of us would have heard of it if it wasn't for that, I'm sure.
It's not commonly used.
No.
In our correspondence, you said, I think I'm prepared to give you an interview that's a Lollapalooza. It'll knock your socks off.
Yes.
I will answer any question
Yes.
about any subject truthfully and completely.
Yes.
Can I count on you for that?
You sure can.
You said, be prepared to meet a whole different breed of cat. What breed exactly?
Well, I'm just like no one else, really,
Serial killer?
They're a dime a dozen.
Psychopath?
No.
Sociopath?
I have part of that in me.
Outside of crime, your life is utterly unremarkable.
That's true.
Is that fair?
A complete, abject failure, a nothing, a nobody who never achieved anything, that never followed through on anything, who is a failure at everything.
Except killing.
Well, that started when I was 61.
All right, Chase Hughes, what do you got?
Thank you, Mr. Rouse. He lays out this self-assessment here. Let's go deep into the behavior stuff here. I'm not going to touch on the body language here. He goes into this crazy self-assessment. Never achieved anything. Never followed through on anything. Abject failure. I was a nobody. I failed at everything. What's truly wild is how he says all of this without a single I pronoun. Never me, my, I, nothing. It's like he's narrating somebody else's life. So neurologically speaking, his prefrontal cortex, which was allegedly damaged by this flip-up bed thing, this is very important for self-reflection and integrating who we are, our identity. We have this thing in the very center called the DMPFC, the dorsomedial prefrontal cortex. This is where the word I lives. When we think of I in our head, that's where that is. So he struggles to process, in my opinion, self as some kind of unified whole. So I think he's externalizing all these failures like he's describing some stranger. But I think it's his brain's way of exactly what you were saying last video, Scott, shielding his ego from a life that he deems to be meaningless. But psychologically, not neurologically, but psychologically, just stripping away the I identification, he detaches from accountability. which is a classic trait. Scott's going to tell you probably in just a few seconds here. But then he starts saying the killing started when I was 61. And here we see a rare micro expression, which I thought when I was watching this, I'm going to correct myself later, but I'm going to tell you what was in my notes here. We see a tongue jut micro expression. And I thought, that's the first time we've really seen a tongue jut here. So maybe something interesting. We tend to see the tongue jut thing like after someone gets away with something or they feel like they did. He's not distancing himself as much from the murders as he is being a failure. But there's a weird difference between this pride with murder and then this nobody status. The paradox here is crazy. But if his brain's damaged, like they say, he's kind of floating back and forth between these things, and who knows if he's even capable of processing the self-concept or anything. Scott, what do you got?
All right. This is his version of the hero's journey, his rags to riches story, from not famous to famous. So that's what he's telling here. So he's getting his big, this is who I am, this is what I do. And when he says this started when I was 61, no, you don't start killing people when you're 61. That doesn't happen. You've done stuff before that. Like you were saying, Chase, he shot his stepfather, his father, or somebody. He's going to have a history of drug problems. He's going to have a history of getting in trouble with the law. He's going to have a history of not getting along with anybody or not getting along with a lot of people that he's not being violent with. He may get along with a lot of people, but there'll be violence in there somewhere, like really bad violence. And I think that is probably his background. But you don't start that at 61. That goes the whole time or until you have an accident and it takes care of your brain and all that, or messes up your brain. So no, that's not true. So again, he's going to have that violent background. Those are the hallmarks, and so far the red flags and hallmarks are all there. So really graphic, really cruel. I'm sure he's got a history of cruelty to animals. I'm sure he's got a history of all the a lot of breaking and entering, things like that. Usually the sociopath, or everybody calls a sociopath, would be the person who's actually more violent than a psychopath most of the time. When you look at the two differences, and the quote unquote sociopath is the one that ends up in prison or jail a lot sooner than the psychopath, because they are triggered by when they get triggered, they just get violent really quick, start trying to kill somebody, or I want to hurt this guy, but it ends up killing him. Those types of things. And it's really usually it's like in bars and knife fights and things like that. It's really those things will get fairly graphic. So the difference in this guy and like Kohberger and Ted Bundy and whoever else you want to put in that big pile with him is that he's coming out and saying, here's who I am and here's what I've done. Again, you've got Kohberger, where we're dealing with someone who's on the autism spectrum. You got Ted Bundy, who is somebody who is similar to this, but not on that grand of a scale. He's a little bit smarter than this guy, so he tried not to get caught. He knew better than that. This guy didn't want to get caught. He wasn't trying to get caught, but he's so stupid. He doesn't understand how not to get caught. He doesn't think out that far. I don't think. That's my impression of him anyway. But watch his illustrators. They really don't. A lot of the time, they don't land when they're supposed to, because they're supposed to land when they're emphasizing the word or phrase you want to tell, and his land off a little bit. But he hasn't had a whole lot of them up to this point. So again, it goes back to that connection neurologically with what he's trying to say and do and what he's actually thinking and what's coming out, and that connecting with his body. I think there's a lot going on up there. When you're dealing with psychopathy, you're dealing with those signals aren't right in the parietal lobes or frontal lobe. You've got all kinds of things in there that aren't working correctly. So I think that's showing a lot here. It's showing itself here, in other words. And again, he's not very smart. I think he falls into the doofus category of whether psychopaths are all brilliant and smart and sneaky and all that. I think he's a doofus. I think that's the pile he's in. Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, he's on my list of some of the stupidest serial killers we've seen as well. I mean, we got some worse ones, but he's pretty high up there. I have this theory, and I've had this written down for years and tracked for the past 40 years, probably, things that I notice in people. And I always say humans go through cycles in their life, and there's a lot more complexity to this than I'm going to say in this 5-minute thing we're going to do today. But I say we start off as kids when we're 20s, idealistic. The world is my oyster. I can do anything possible. Then we get in our 30s or so. We start saying, well, the world's not my oyster, but I'm really good at this. And we start painting the floor in front of us until we paint ourselves into a corner. And then we say we become pessimistic in our 40s. And we get in our 40s, we're like, eh. And most people will recognize this because you get in your 40s, you're kind of going, is this what there is? And then you get on the backside of that, you get in your 50s or so, you get to opportunistic. And then you start doing whatever makes you, happy at that point. The next phase of that is rationalizing. I rationalize my life through all the things I've done and why it worked out or it didn't, all those pieces. And then I go to fatalistic or waiting for the end or just get to the bottom. And everybody I know has gone through some of the same process. I've been watching people for, like I said, about 40 years and seeing it. And I think what we're seeing here is rationalizing. I think we're seeing a person who's rationalizing his life. I was not good at this. And because he's a psychopath and because he has no capability to understand normal people, I think he also realizes he has to play a game to be able to say what he wants to say. And I think Chase, and it could be a neurological issue, but my opinion is he is distancing from saying, I suck, I'm awful, I'm this. He's learned the right words to say so that people will listen. And that entire soliloquy is a but preparation statement. Because he's going to say, but I was a damn good serial killer. Whether he says it out loud or not, that's the whole lead up to this next thing he has to say. And then when he hears that killing comment, look how amused he is. Look at his face. But after he says, all that started at 61, there's a quick close of his mouth. We typically associate that with a person who's trying to hide something or has gotten away with something, especially in a person who has breathing issues. There's also a hard out breath that's pronounced, again, in a person with breathing issues. There's a loss of amusement in his eyes. There's lip compression. And if you don't think that's lip compression, remember the guy's got no teeth. It looks different, and you just have to look for it. And then chase him with you. He's got that creepy tongue jet. What causes all that? Don't know. But I bet you this guy has killed people before this first ones they know about. I think if you were digging and you went and looked around, you would find something. If he would admit it, and the only way you're going to get him to admit it is to use that pride and ego up. To say, look, you're smarter than having killed 4 people. That is a Scharfian interrogation technique, by the way. A lot of Scharf's interrogation techniques played on ego, pride, love, hate, and greed. And when you poke them and say, look, everybody knows you're the best serial killer in a long time. You must have killed more than 4. Then they start telling you things. And we'll see David do some of that as this goes. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, I love this moment because it's very meta, and I like that meta stuff, and it's like double narcissist in one go. And here's why for me. He says, nobody, nothing, abject failure, never achieved anything, never followed through, failure at everything. Well, most people on the planet are average. I mean, we're all kind of average failures on the whole. There's a bell curve. And we all, majority of us, by the nature of the average, is we end up, focused around that center of the bell curve. And we're very unlikely to be the outlier. And even in statistically, you get rid of all the outliers anyway. Everybody ends up in this kind of, 8 billion people of relative averageness, unfortunately. But this guy is the greatest failure on the planet. I mean, he's a different breed of failure. He's taken failure to a whole different level. Now we know the narcissist is fueled by their self-loathing. And now there's a good, it is quite complex as everybody's been pointing to, in that do we even know that this person has an understanding of self? And isn't just, has no understanding of self, and is just kind of giving himself a persona of the greatest killer ever. I mean, that's a possibility as well. But ultimately, even so, we can see that there can be that he's even talking about the abject failure. There's a self-loathing in there that he has to escalate into the greatest self-loathing ever. I don't think I've ever. I mean, I've seen the self-loathing of the narcissist. We've seen them hide it for sure, and it leak out. He's expanding it into the center of the narrative, and the most extreme story of the greatest failure the world has ever seen. I love that. Never seen that before. You know, my hat is off to him in that way that I'm laughing at him at the same. I tip my hat to you, you utter clown. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Let's have another. Let's see what he's got next. What a joker.
Outside of crime, your life is utterly unremarkable.
That's true.
Is that fair?
A complete abject failure, a nothing, a nobody who never achieved anything, that never followed through on anything, who is a failure at everything.
Except killing.
Well, that started when I was 61.
Can I ask you this? Empathy, mercy, decency, did those ideas ever register with you at all?
Yes. I have 4 different personalities. A soldier, a scientist, an artist, and a comedian.
Hilton says he has multiple personalities, to which he ascribes 4 respective professions, though he is qualified in none.
The soldier and the scientist, they're totally rational, unemotional. The artist is concerned with textures and feelings and emotions, and the comedian wants to make people happy. The soldier personality is emotionless. Kill them all, let God sort them out. That's the soldier mentality.
Is it possible that all that talk about being an army soldier was delusional on your part?
No.
No?
No. I've been tested too many times. I've been in too many fights for over 20 years.
Greg, I hope you don't lose your teeth, man, and gain a bunch of weight. That could be bad. You could get, well, if they did the movie on him, you could be.
Well, I can grow my hair back. It's just scruffy.
Yeah. Wow. That's too bad. Well, I'll go first on this one. He's got these 4 different personalities set up. This is called dissociative identity disorder. So what happens is he gives generalizations about every one of these things. Again, he's been sitting around thinking about this.
You mean what he's describing, not what he has.
Right. Yeah.
But I think I'm gonna pull out a Scott Rouse here in a second if you call on me next.
Okay, let's see what happens. I'll talk to me and let you know.
Yeah.
I'll text me. Let's see what I say. Okay, so that would be multiple personalities.
Yes.
See, because I don't think he has that. Maybe that's why.
No, none of us do. And that's what I'm saying.
Doesn't have anything.
No.
I think it's bullshit.
Yeah.
I think that's what he is.
As Chase rightly said after we just watched that, before we came back, Chase went, "You're an idiot." That's what he is.
Yeah,
he's an abject idiot.
Yeah,
he's an idiot. I think I was the one who said it, but yeah, we might have both said it at the same time because this guy's a moron.
Maybe I was making my notes. I was seeing it as that because no, he's making this shit up.
Sure. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And we know that because you just give him generalities of it.
I can show you how you know it. Yeah.
Because he's not being specific. He thinks he's being specific about it when he's talking about being the soldier and the scientist and the coldly rational, and unemotional. That's what so are cops. So are doctors when they're doing their job. That's what they have to do. So that, no, this guy's just, he doesn't know what he's talking about. And he's the artist where he's concerned with textures and things like that. Now, his illustrators, he gets big in that. Notice how those are coming out. All of a sudden, he's trying to make that like he really believes that, like it's a big deal for him. He's attributing things to himself that have nothing to do with him, but he thinks it makes him sound like a cool guy because he's an artist too, man. Yeah, he's a killer and stuff, right? But I'm still an artist too, man. No, that's not what's happening. Then when he talks about being the comedian and wants to make people happy, come on, give me a break. There's no comedian in there. Just because he laughs at himself doesn't mean he's funny or he's a comedian or wants to make other people feel good. That's not the way that works. So to me, it sounds like he's flat out lying and that this is fake. That was what was in my notes. So maybe I got that right, but that gets on my last nerve. Who's going to go? Let me see. Who's going to text me? I was going to go. Chase? Hughes?
Oh, yeah. Hi. So I was watching this. If you don't know, I've just moved. I'm in a new house. I'm on my patio right now because everything in there is like a box apocalypse. So there, I don't even have like a bare wall to sit
It
against, but
looks
I
like
think
you're
this is good.
camping. It really looks like you're camping. You should have said, "Hey, we're out here in the middle of everywhere it is."
We're having a festival.
Yeah, I'm here
Having a
Lollapalooza.
Lollapalooza.
When he's talking about this artist texture thing, I'm sitting in my living room, watching these videos, and I'm imagining him over here being like, "Oh yeah, I think we could use a jute rug here and maybe some burlap pillows or something
Small.
like that." Yeah, you just want to bring in some sage into this area. But yeah, I don't think any of that's real. And I have a question: was he in the military?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Okay. So here comes my Scott Rouse. And if you're watching this, if you watch this for a while, you may know this, but Scott reads more books than me, Mark, and Greg put together times six. Maybe more than times six, but it's a lot. So when Scott hears somebody quote a book, he knows like the book that it came from and who said it and all that. With these four personalities that this guy is talking about here, he is almost directly quoting from a book about masculine archetypes called King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. These are the four archetypes that he's kind of saying. And I'm willing to bet this book was probably, I think, written in 78, 1980, something. So it's been around a while. But he refers to this soldier a second time, but he forgets to mention that it's a personality. He accidentally calls it the mindset or mentality of the soldier. He forgot. So this is pretty common in people who are falsifying multiple personalities. If you're talking about your next door neighbor, you would never accidentally describe your neighbor as a personality trait. Not once in your whole life. You will never make that mistake. So when somebody's truly suffering DID, there's no chance that they're going to slip up because they're speaking about different people, just like if you were talking about your neighbor. So this guy, Hilton, used his dog. His dog's name was Dandy, to appear non-threatening and lure hikers in. But there was this one victim he had named Meredith Emerson. She was a martial arts expert and fought back like a mofo, and I think broke his hand and kept giving him wrong ATM pin codes and stuff to buy time and kind of create a trail for investigators. Oh my God! Like what a badass.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. Self-defense items can come in handy if you're hiking. And I can tell you from very personal experience, and Greg can too, pepper spray is one of the most devastating things that you can use on a human being to stop them from doing stuff. Let me give you a quick tip here. The thing with that is you have to know whether you have a spray or a stream, because those work very differently. And if you have a spray and the wind is blowing towards you, you're going to be in bad shape. So it can turn the tables on you. That's all I got there. Mark, what do you have?
Yeah, and don't wait to use that stuff. Go early. Go early with it.
It's not lethal.
Yeah, or it will be in their hands and used on you.
That's right.
Go early with it. Yeah, listen, I love this because if we thought this guy was an utter clown at this point, he maximizes on it. He says, I've got four different personalities: the soldier, the scientist, the artist, the comedian. Well, I'm a lover, I'm a sinner, I'm a fighter, I'm a joker, I'm a midnight smoker. It's like he's two different. He's got two different. He's got that book that you're talking about. He's got a number of lyrics of songs in there, and he's describing the classic dichotomy of the rational and the emotional. The rational is the soldier and the scientist. The emotional is the artist and the comedian. It's a classic dichotomy, and he's put it into a quadrant of four, and basically described anybody. That's all of us. All of us have this balance or imbalance of the rational and the emotional. And we could say it's like I've got this person and this person and this person and this person. And you've described every average person on the planet. We're all a sense of that. And so what's beautiful about it is he's tried to, and we'll see him do this further on, this, and we see psychopaths do it a lot actually, and narcissists. romanticize the averageness of themselves. And that's all he's doing. It's like, you are just like everybody else, in fact, less so in many ways. And you're trying to convince us that it is something special, and it's so ordinary what you've got. It's not multiple personalities. It's just a person. That's what we got here. Somebody, nobody. Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, he's a shithouse psychologist now is what he is. So he's going to talk about 4 personalities. He's talking about roles anyway, not personalities. Let's talk about how you personally can know he doesn't have those personalities. If you ever meet a soldier who thinks that they're unemotional, you've never met a soldier. Soldiers are complex because they have to be stoic to emotion. There's a very big difference. If I'm not, don't have rage, if I don't have sympathy, if I don't have empathy, if I don't have all those things, it makes it really hard to do what we do for a living. Any of us who've been to combat will tell you there's a lot of stuff rolling around in that backside of your head from having to deal with all that. And some people never get over it. Some people have a hard time with it. So anybody who has been a soldier, anybody who truly has a soldier's understanding can take that apart with questions. Same for an artist. Are artists really worried about the textures and paints, or are they worried about something else? Most artists I know would say it's a process and there's something coming out of them. It's not the other way. And then the same. Scott, you know a lot of comedians. Are they really about making people happy?
Some of them, they like to hear
Some
the
of them.
laughs.
Yes, that's different than making people happy.
Exactly.
So I think you could take his story apart, period. But what he's talking about here, when he's talking about, this is the creepiest thing we're going to hear him say, I believe, for one reason. Because I think what he really means, and if you poke him, he would have told you, is when I'm committing murders, I'm a soldier without compassion. I'm an artist. I'm creative in the texture. That's what I hear in this. And that makes me creeped out even more than I was by the guy in the beginning. When he gets to this point where when he's asked the question about a soldier and then he goes to talk about being in too many fights, look at him. That's real pleasure in his face again. He's talking about, he's given a chance to talk about how grand he is, and he's this warrior, he's this soldier. Most soldiers, and Chase, both of us would say we avoid fights given every opportunity. We de-escalate given every opportunity because you don't know who that person is. And to your point, he encountered one of those where he got beaten up pretty good, it sounds like, by a young woman, and I'd rather use her name than his. We fight when it's necessary and there's a real reason. If you really want to see who's the person here, right here, and David is really good at drawing people out and getting them to talk and then going at them, go after those BS theories. Ask him, what do you mean by you want people to be happy? Most comedians I know want applause. That's not the same thing. He's got him on notice, though, if you pay attention, because his facial expression, David's facial expression, shows amusement. This knucklehead doesn't see it. He can't see amusement because I don't think he can empathize. He has no understanding of others, and he's convinced he knows what other people think and feel, and that's why he's got an answer for everything. That's what I see.
So you're saying he's a Lollapalooza?
He's a Lollapalooza. He could use a little bit of, yeah.
And I think he spent a lot of time by himself because, like Mark was saying earlier, he doesn't realize he's not, special.
Mundane.
He thinks he is because he's been by himself for so long, and not a lot of input to that brain. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, the mundanity of evil.
Oh, man.
Boring. It's actually quite a boring person.
Yeah.
I believe he probably is because he has nothing to talk about but himself and what he thinks about himself.
That's why he said, I'll answer all questions instead of I'll tell you everything. I bet in his letter.
I'll bet you're right. Yep.
Yep. Yes.
Can I ask you this? Empathy, mercy, decency, did those ideas ever register with you at all?
Yes. I have 4 different personalities. A soldier, a scientist, an artist, and a comedian.
Hilton says he has multiple personalities, to which he ascribes 4 respective professions, though he is qualified in none.
The soldier and the scientist, they're totally rational, unemotional. The artist is concerned with textures and feelings and emotions, and the comedian wants to make people happy. The soldier personality is emotionalist. Kill them all, let God sort them out. That's the soldier mentality.
Is it possible that all that talk about being an army soldier was delusional on your part?
No.
No?
No, I've been tested too many times. I've been in too many fights for over 20 years.
You have the power to haunt our dreams.
Yes,
Turn them into nightmares, to worry about our daughters, to worry about our mothers, to worry about ourselves. Do you enjoy having that kind of power over us?
You know, in a perverse kind of way, I do. The woman I killed in Tallahassee, that I have my current death sentence for, she was a devout Christian and a real wheel in the church.
Cheryl Dunlap.
Yes.
Now, you've never publicly told exactly what happened there, right?
No, I haven't. And that case currently is under appeal.
Right.
As a matter of fact, it hasn't been finally adjudicated. But hey, I'm going to give you a news scoop. I did it. So there you have it.
You did it.
Yes, I'm confessing to a murder on camera that I've never had before.
You murdered.
So I'm giving you something, David.
You murdered Cheryl Dunlap.
Yes, I did it. I did it. And I'll be glad to tell anyone I did.
All right, Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, the show continues. Love it. Love it. Well, the interviewer comes up with here, and I don't know whether this is him quoting from this letter that he wrote or something, so I'm not so sure about this, but you have the power to haunt our dreams. And he doesn't disagree with it. Doesn't disagree if that's the interviewer's romanticization, or his words from the letter, which would be a romanticization, the power to haunt people's dreams. That's clearly a piece of poetry, something romantic. He doesn't disagree with that, which means he's enjoying this romantic horror idea about himself. It's a Freddy Krueger idea, really. Krueger makes a pact with a demon so that he can come back and get revenge on the family that went and killed him, and so it's a very romantic idea, the idea of revenge, not romantic in the beautiful way, but romantic in the storytelling way. So he's not going to disagree with that. Now, if I were a serial killer and I'm not a psychopath, I would have very specific reasoning for exactly why this series of people have been killed. And if somebody went, well, you're haunting our dreams, I go, that is ridiculous. Here's exactly what I'm doing. This is here's my motivations, and here's my mindset, and that's why this happens. Not some idea of I'm trying to haunt your dreams. That would just be madness, as far as I was concerned. He's willing to join in on this. And then what I love about this is the interviewer, in that pop sense, grey rocking him, which is basically this idea of not having any emotional response to his revelation, like the subject here feels that the interviewer should be standing up and applauding and like, whoa, we just got a scoop. Thank you so much for this scoop. The interviewer is doing nothing. And of course, it absolutely triggers him with the awfulness that his big revelation is having zero effect. So I'm giving you something, David. And he does, and nothing, no response at all. He's even having to explain to him, here's what's happened. I just gave you some, on camera.
Yeah.
Do you not see what happened? Where's the trumpets? Where's the dancing girls? Are you bringing in the elephants now? Are we getting the full parade around what? Zero.
That's where the 13 Emmys are coming from.
Yeah. Well, the interviewer's going to get the awards, not him. That's going to really annoy him. Well, he'll probably say, "Oh no, those are my awards, really, because I did that interview. I did that revelation on that.
I made him famous.
I'm what made him." Anyway, I love it. It's fantastic. Chase, what do you got on this one?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And let me go into the candid truth about people who fear insignificance, who I think is what we're looking at here. If you look up the definition of Lollapalooza, it is an outstanding, extreme, or outrageous example of its kind. So I think he used that word decidedly. But when somebody feels invisible, like they don't register on anybody's radar, this hunger inside of them is not for power or control. And this is my opinion, but the hunger inside of them is for proof that they exist. And I think a lot of it is this confirmation that they matter, that they can leave a dent in reality somehow. But here's the effed up part. If they can't get that validation in a healthy way, they're going to reach for anyway. And that's where you see a lot of these crazy behaviors trying to shock and manipulate and dominate situations, not because they're villains scheming for power. And I'm not talking about this one person here. I'm talking about all kinds of crazy stuff that we see. There's just people terrified of vanishing. So if you look at Gary, people framed all of this as a hunger for control. But if you look underneath, you see a guy who's been discarded. He describes himself this way: invisible, failure, ignored by people. And I don't think his fear was not being powerful. I think it was being nobody. I think that was a deep, deep fear, the fear of being nobody. And I think a lot of people mistake this as a lust for domination. But if you zoom out, power and control are not the root drives. I think they're masks. I think the drive here is significance. And people want to feel like their life had some weight, like they're not just a little ghost passing through. But you see it in everyday life. Some dude explodes in a road rage thing. He's not trying to control traffic. He just doesn't want to be feeling like nobody. Or a woman who burns down every relationship. She's not addicted to the chaos. She's terrified of being forgettable. So we see these things in our everyday lives so much. And when you get this, if I'm not going too long, it feels like I have been. Just the pattern's clear. Insignificance terrifies people, some people, more than death. Death at least kind of proves that you were here, but insignificance is kind of like I never existed in the first place. So I don't think it's all control. I think it's a lot of recognition, significance, but the world tends to accidentally see power and control moves and stuff like that. But it's kind of just somebody saying, please, God, don't let me be nothing at the end of the day. Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, and Chase, I would say this: regardless of the underpinnings, the expression is the danger. The expression here is the danger. And so what Chase is talking about is there might be deep underlying causes, but the expression of this is absolutely terror and control.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Regardless of what else came up. So I'm going to give you an example of why this might be the most significant video we've talked to you about in a while. Right here, again, take it out of context. Zoom, when say he does a close-up on this one, I want to zoom in on his face and show him smiling with a true Ducheme smile and pleased when they're talking about him causing terror and haunting dreams. You would think if you put that and put up behind him a bingo parlor, you'd be like he's about to win bingo. This is a really disturbing image because it shows you why these guys, Scott, your favorite people, psychopaths, can hide among us, because he can have an internal driver that's causing him to smile, look pleasant, look gentle. All the meanwhile, he's thinking about something really horrible, and you can't tell that. That's why they hide among us. That's why child molesters and people like that are hiding among us, because what joy they're getting, you have no idea what's causing it. But we can see that joy here, and it could come across in a normal conversation with you and not be related to the conversation. You got to take into account where you're at, blocking, and context. So if you meet somebody who's too familiar with you and this happy when they're talking to you and you're not giving them stimulus for it, get out of that situation. You'll save yourself a lot of grief. It's an important part of this whole thing. Watch David's exaggerated whole body illustrators as he gets to this point where he is admiring him when he says, you have power over all of us. Look at him. He leans in. His illustrators get bigger. Mark, I agree with you. When he says, I'm going to give you something, he goes stoic on him, and it's just a beautiful expression. And what we see is this guy has no idea what he's looking at when he's looking across the table at David. And then he says the weirdest words I've ever heard anybody say in any of our videos. About this killing, you found it pleasurable in a perverse kind of way. Well, I don't know of any other way that could be taken. So it's really weird, this whole thing. Then he grants an audience when he says, hey, news scoop. Watch him slow his cadence, pause, and wait for you to pay attention to him. And then that cadence changes. He goes to, I'm going to confess to murder on camera. This is him, Chase, regardless of what the underlying cause is. This is him exercising the only power he has. This is him exercising terror in people, because this is a horrible thing to do in public because her family is watching and that kind of stuff. I'm back to burn his birth certificate, give him a sequence number, don't give him a name, maybe which row he is for the next guy to go into the death chamber. But this is awful because this guy's not a human being to me. Scott, what do you got?
Yeah, you guys have covered pretty much everything. So I'll talk about this one thing here. As you watch our videos, we get all kinds of email and comments, and people say, oh, I've learned so much from you over the past 5-6 years. Thanks so much I learned this, and I learned that. And as you watch one show, you'll remember 2 or 3 things from it. You'll remember this, and it'll stick with you. Or you remember that, and you'll say, I remember where that's from. They talked about there, so I'm going to watch out for that person. If you remember 3 things from this, remember this one. And we've all talked about it. Is when David doesn't talk after he says, I killed her, that I did it. That is so important, because an interrogation, when you do that, this is basically what it looks like. If somebody says that, and you just kind of sit there and look at them. When you're asking someone a question, and this is the thing I want you to remember, if you're asking someone a question, it's important to come down to the, did you do it or not, or whatever it was, and you ask them the question, don't say anything else once they answer. They'll give you their answer once you ask them the question, and you just don't change it all and go, nothing. Just keep looking at them like, don't even have to shake your head. Just keep looking at them, and they'll start talking again because they're really uncomfortable. He is so blown away that this didn't affect him. He doesn't know what to do. So he yells at him, hey, man, look what I just told you. That's how potent that is. And he still doesn't say anything. It takes a minute to get to something right after that. So that's so important. It's such a powerful tool for you. Put in your body language toolbox. Use that. Remember that. What were you going to say, Greg? You had something?
Good one.
Okay.
It's a good one. Yeah.
In your satchel. Put that in your satchel.
Put that in your satchel, buddy.
Put in your sack.
Do you think they're going to make us
body language lunch pack?
Do you think they're going to make us speak Chinese too?
I think
Yeah,
so.
we could. Yeah, could do. Yeah,
I think we should have behavior panel lunch boxes, Mark. That's a great idea.
Yeah, bring those back. Yeah, or behavior panel toolboxes.
I want to see us talking in Chinese. I want
Me
to see
too.
what that looks like.
It'll be wild.
That'd be
looking
amazing.
because-
That would be hilarious to see us
It
do
would be.
because we'd be all serious, leaning like I was just saying, leaning into it, man, talking, speaking Chinese.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, I'm sure the Cantonese channel will come.
Yeah.
People get over to the Spanish one.
And Mandarin.
Yeah,
Mandarin,
Mandarin,
don't forget
Cantonese. Yeah.
You have the power to haunt our dreams,
Yes, sir.
turn them into nightmares, to worry about our daughters, to worry about our mothers, to worry about ourselves. Do you enjoy having that kind of power over us?
You know, in a perverse kind of way, I do. The woman I killed in Tallahassee, that I have my current death sentence for, she was a devout Christian and a real wheel in the church.
Cheryl Dunlap.
Yes.
Now, you've never publicly told exactly what happened there, right?
No, I haven't. And that case currently is under appeal.
Right.
As a matter of fact, it hasn't been finally adjudicated. But hey, I'm going to give you a news scoop. I did it. So there you have it.
You did it.
Yes, I'm confessing to a murder on camera that I've never had before.
You murdered
David.
You murdered Cheryl Dunlap.
Yes, I did it. I did it. And I'll be glad to tell anyone I did.
You said something in the correspondence that I thought was especially striking. I thought I'd start with this. You said, confronting the reality of death
Yes.
is, of course, much different from the abstract concept.
Yes.
Death is like a roaring fire It can induce a blind panic that will make you trample your best friend to get away with it.
Very true.
Have you witnessed this intimately in the course of imposing death on your victims?
No, their death was, to them, completely unexpected.
And yet, what surprised me about that statement is that even after all the cruelty and killing you've done, the idea of your own death still frightens you.
Yes, and for that, I'm ashamed and I feel guilty.
Because the way you struck down those innocent people,
That's
you would
right.
think that life is cheap to you. But
That's right.
Does that just apply to other people's lives, not your own?
No, it applies to their lives too.
Does it apply to yours?
Yes, and when I say I want to live,
Yeah.
well, they wanted to live too. I know they did. And I know what I took from them.
All right, Chase, what do you got?
Yeah, everybody picking up a little sling blade
Yeah.
in that accent and just how he's just wording stuff. I don't know.
He's trying to sound all shucksy in there is what
Yeah.
he's trying to do. Sound
Yeah.
all folksy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the tongue jut that I said earlier is probably not relevant. We're now seeing this. A lot of his baseline behavior has this tongue stuff in there.
No teeth.
I think the shame that he's talking about feeling here is the fear of death. He's ashamed that he was afraid of death. That's the shame that he's really admitting to. This is an aberration. Excuse me. From the beginning of the interview, if you watch the whole thing, one thing is going to stand out to you if you know anything about human behavior. He is absolutely desperate not to be seen as common. His fears all seem to revolve around being forgotten and seeming common. Those two things. The interesting part here is that he's as common as it gets. I mean, he's like in the lower part of the bell curve or whatever. I don't know. Mark will think of a better metaphor, but
Subtypical is what I call them.
yeah, subtypical. The only aberration or significant thing here is that he started acting on these desires way later than most people, and he just took too long. If that's even the truth. That's all I got there. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah. Like I'd say a whole bunch of stuff, but something that just came to me now is, and it builds on what you're saying there, Chase, is this is a very ordinary guy. And he is going to die in a very ordinary way. Yeah. And that's what he fears the most, is it's going to be a surprise to him because it's going to happen not when he least expected it or most expected it. It's just going to happen. Just going to happen. And it will be very ordinary from a very ordinary cause, and there'll be nothing special about it at all. And after that fact, I mean, after this, I'm never going to think of him again, and he will drift into more insignificance, really. And, the most extraordinary insignificance. And that's, quite a good thing, I think. Quite a good thing. Scott, what do you got on this one?
After hearing you say that, I almost feel sorry for him.
Don't, because it's his worst nightmare.
Oh,
I'm not sure. He's in Florida. He might not die of a typical cause.
yeah. And I think that's why I think what he's doing is he's trying to show he has empathy. They feel sorry for what he did. They did, whatever it was too. Really? So no, that whole thing is set up to make him look or seem like he has feelings, like he can relate to what's happening. He feels sorry for him, feels bad about what he did, and they had lives too, that kind of thing. Because he's appealing all this. He's appealing that another murder, and up until he yapped to David. Remember, I met him, so I can call him David. Till he yapped, he was trying to get out of that one as well. So I don't know if they'll give him the old goose juice and get rid of him, or get him in the arm. But that's what I think he's trying to do. He's trying to appeal to looking like a human being that has feelings, that has empathy. I think that's what's happening there. Greg, what do you got?
There's a couple of different people playing here. And I say even a blind squirrel finds a nut. Occasionally he does. In the beginning, when he's talking about, he's using this guy's words. I'm not going to call him by name. He's using this, when David's using this knucklehead's words, you see a real Ducheme smile. and you see him pontificating. And by that, I mean, he goes down to his left to think of the right words to say and then says something about whatever garbage that was about the value of life and life being a death being a fire and all that. And then David gets outright confrontational and goes at him and says, boom, 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 you did this and you took away their life. And that's when I think a blind squirrel finds a nut. You see him change. He drops to his internal voice again. And then he goes and he comes up with some language that sounds like he cares, like he did something wrong. And I think it's because he knows this guy's got some power to control everything. And Mark and Chase and Scott, you've all said he doesn't want to be insignificant. He could have just gone clip, and this guy's a nobody again. And I think he cares what this guy thinks enough to get out what he wants. I think we're just seeing more of the organism do it, what made the organism successful. This guy's been hiding in plain sight. He's a nobody, a drifter. Even people in the local town around Blood Mountain call him a drifter. And he just found a way to make himself important. And I think I told you guys a long time ago, I talked to a guy one time and said, why would you do this? And he said, I could have stayed in my little village and been nobody, or I could come here and do this and be somebody. I think it's what we're seeing.
You said something in the correspondence that I thought was especially striking. I thought I'd start with this. You said, confronting the reality of death.
Yes.
Is of course much different from the abstract concept.
Yes.
Death is like a roaring fire. It can induce a blind panic that will make you trample your best friend to get away with it.
Very true.
Have you witnessed this intimately in the course of imposing death on your victims?
No, their death was, to them, completely unexpected.
And yet, what surprises me about that statement is that even after all the cruelty and killing you've done, the idea of your own death still frightens you.
Yes, and for that, I'm ashamed and I feel guilty.
Because the way you struck down those innocent people, you would think that life is cheap to you. But
that's right.
Does that just apply to other people's lives, not your own?
No, it applies to their lives too.
Does it apply to yours?
Yes, and when I say I want to live, well, they wanted to live too. I know they did. And I know what I took from them.
This was a great one because we learned so much from watching this guy individually. And I think there are enough lessons in here for you to learn something about psychopathy as well and things you can use in your everyday lives. Mark, what did you see as we went through this?
Yeah, I mean, I love every moment of this. But, you know, the place I want to highlight most for you is that moment of self-loathing where he turns it into the greatest self-loathing ever. I've never seen anything like that. And it's textbook stuff at the most extreme. Listen, if you're watching there, I can't even remember what your name is, but if you're watching, that's about the only decent thing you've done, which is that little maneuver there. It interested me. You actually interested me for a moment, and then I'll forget about you, you clown. Chase, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. The guy failed at everything: marriage, work, even kind of basic identity. And when he talks about it, he won't even say the word I. And that's not what we call pronoun absence, which that's different than what we typically call pronoun absence. This is a fractured brain and person refusing ownership of a lot of themselves, pretending to have multiple identities. But you can see the second he says, I started killing at 61, there's that grin on his face. It's pride because he mattered. In his mind, anyway. I don't think he does. Greg?
Yeah, I'm not going to call him by name because I don't like him. But what I will say is this. He gave us some great examples of how these kinds of monsters can hide in public by showing us a happy old man who could be my uncle playing bingo. And then suddenly he's talking about the most horrific of things. And then if we watch him, we'll see him play through all this. And then, like I said, a blind squirrel finds a nut at the very end. He is sitting there and forced to behave and to say all the right words, but there's no sadness, no joy, no facial expression of any kind as he's forced to act like a human, which Scott plays right into. What do you got?
Yeah, I really like this one. I think this might be my favorite one because we actually got to see not only a psychopath, but we got to see somebody talk to one that knows how to talk to one. And it just lets them talk. Instead of trying to be the star of the thing, like we see a lot of the time, notice how much camera wasn't on him. It was all on I don't want to say his name either. on the psychopath. So I think that's a great lesson there. It's in one person, it's not all about me, it's about you. And the other guy's like, yeah, it's all about me. And I think they went together well. I think they worked together really well. And that's why I like this one so much, I think. All right, fellas, thanks for another good one, and we'll see you next time.